Hello and welcome to week 2, where we are beginning our exploration of statistics. Chapter 1, looking at Introduction to Statistics, getting into the concept of statistics as a tool to help us understand the data that we collect when we are using the scientific method. Statistics is used to gather descriptive information, and it's also used to gather predictive or maybe significance in terms of the relationship between numbers. Specifically, it helps to avoid bias when we're looking at numbers, because sometimes our bias, we can see patterns, just like when we look up in the sky and we see just stars all over the place. We are inherently going to see patterns. We see the constellations that's happened throughout history. We look at numbers and our biases start to feed back into those numbers. And so by using statistics, we create honest psychologists. We'll hope to. Statistics are used in the media to add a scientific veracity to ideas. They can be rigged to look a little different than they really are by selecting certain kinds of statistics or presenting them in a way that leans toward one way or another. So I think it was Mark Twain that said, there are 3 kinds of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. It can be used that way, but if we're transparent about our data and the methods of our analysis, it's honest. These are mathematical principles. It's the application of the language of science, which is mathematics, into the world of psychology, deeply embedded into the scientific method, specifically for quantitative research. Qualitative research uses much less statistics. In fact, it's sort of the antithesis of using statistics, or using trends and patterns that we see. It's actually emphasizing the ability for people to see patterns. But sometimes we even apply some statistics within those kinds of experiments as well. It is closely linked to the previous class, research methods, because as we are designing our quantitative study, we're going to be gathering data, and the types of data and the types of analyses that we're trying to make, whether we are trying to see relationships or whether we're going to be looking at comparing means. Those are the 2 big categories when we're comparing means, and then there's relationships. Those decisions about what we're looking for, the research question, and then the methodologies of collects define what statistics we're going to use. We don't start with the statistic and work backwards. We start with our research question, move into methods, and we're like, okay, to understand the relationship between these 2 variables, I'm going to be using a test to measure this variable, and the other one is age. So I'm looking at 2 numerical values here, and I want to see if there's a relationship between those, and that brings me to a correlation. And I would use the correlation test to determine if there's a relationship. And then if I wanted to go further and say, I would like to be able to predict this variable based on age, we start looking at the test of our regression. So what we're asking and what we want to do determine the test that we are going to be using. In the course book, right in chapter 1, I introduce you to this decision tree right here. And what you'll see right at the top, you see comparing means or testing relationships. So we're comparing means, relationships. How many samples? 1, more, 2, 3. And you can see in bold, we have these tests. We have all the way from the left, we have the 1 sample z-test, the 1 sample t-test. Down below that, we have the paired samples t-test. Down the middle, we have the ANOVA. We have the independent samples t-test. A little to the right, we have the Pearson R test. That is the correlation. And then over to the right, we have the chi-square test when we're looking at nominal and ordinal data, and we have the regression test. We will be exploring each one of these, and somewhere in this chart is the decision process for which statistical test you are going to use for your study. At this point, having come in with your proposal, having your methods pretty much lined out and your tools and instruments and whatnot, it's already determined. You have already made all the decisions that you need to make in order to find which tool you're going to be using. So that's kind of neat. You're already there. You just need to learn how to define better what your methodology is, which is going to be part of my feedback that's coming back to you on your proposals in order to arrive at the best statistical tool. So with that given, you have a discussion and your first Excel assignment. So the discussion is going to focus on, I gave you an article. I want you to look at that article and potentially look at other articles about how the media presents statistics. And do the presentations of statistics make the argument stronger? Whoever's trying to make that argument, does showing statistics make it stronger? The assignment is pretty straightforward. It's an introduction to adding a built-in plugin to your Excel program, your Excel app. And it's the data analysis tool pack, which is built into Excel, but you have to turn it on. So I provide you with some feedback on some instructions on how to do that. And then using that tool, you're going to take data that I provided in the assignment, and you're going to produce a little table of descriptive statistics. We will be getting into what all those numbers mean, but right now you're just going to make that little table. This assignment is really to get you into Excel, turning on the plugin that we're going to be using all semester, and being able to create that document in a way that I want it done. So Excel has a feature that you can have tabs on the bottom, and each one of those tabs is a separate grid, separate cells. So the first tab, one on the far left, is going to be your title page. In fact, you can change the title of the tab itself by double-clicking on it and change that title. It'll say Sheet 1, Sheet 2, Sheet 3. Sheet 1 becomes title page. Sheet 2 becomes data. Sheet 3 becomes results. And in this assignment, what you're going to be doing is you're going to have the title page. You're going to build a text box. And in that text box, you're going to format like a title page. Not in the cells. You have to make a text box so you can center it and change the font size and all that, make it nice. So the first tab is like a title page. The second tab contains all of the data and the calculations, all the results of the tool pack. Going to have your data, and then when you're experimenting with this a little bit, when you are using the tool pack, it gives you the option to define where you want the results to go. In some cases, if you can set it to actually create another sheet, and it has those results on it, it'll create another sheet every time. And I'm going to ask you to do that sometimes, but most of the time I'm going to ask you to define an area on that middle sheet where the table's going to go. So you're going to do the calculation, and when that box disappears, you're going to see the table of your data. And on the final page, you're going to do another text box, and you're going to write out in words a description of your results. That is a generic way in which all of these assignments are going to happen. Then, in addition to that, because specific to this class, in order to see these the way you see them, I have to download them. When I download them, they separate from your name. If I grade something in Brightspace, I don't even need a title page, really. I know you did it because it's coming in under your name. But if I download them, they come in whatever you name them, file number 18, whatever it is. So I'm going to have you use a naming standard for the file. So when you're doing a file like this one, as I point out in the course book, I give you an example. So it's Kavanaugh M PSY224 assignment chapter 2. You write that as your file name and then dot XLSX, the new. So that's the document that you send to me. If you try to look, if you click on it, and it will open in Brightspace, but all the formatting had gone, turned into a PDF, and it looks awful. You can't see anything. I'll be downloading all of those. I will be grading them by opening them up in Excel and leaving comments, and may just write out the comments in the little feedback box, or I may write out in the document and upload the new graded version of that to you. It also allows me to look at your work, to examine what equations, what did you do, and to be able to give you feedback if there's any issues that come up with that. So very important. And this is one of the only classes that has this a very specific way in which I want the assignment sent in, because it helps me to give you the best feedback possible. So here's your first Excel assignment, and I hope that this eases some of your fears, because that tool pack is wicked cool, and you can do all of these tests really, really easily within Excel. And so I think that's kind of fun when you can, like, you look at all these, like a one sample t-test, a pair of samples t-test. It all seems, you're going to be able to do every one of these by the end of this class, and you're going to understand what they are. What do they do? You're going to have all these abilities to compare means and look at significance and do an analysis of variance, ANOVA. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. So look forward to that. This is your first assignment in that, looking at descriptive statistics. We will almost always, in the rest of the assignments, include the expectation for descriptive statistics. So that will be a common element. So this first skill is probably going to be the one you're going to practice the most, because it's in almost every assignment. I'm going to be asking you, look at the data, give me the descriptive statistics table on that. So that's it for this week. Look forward to your participation in the discussion. Looking forward to these first Excel documents to come in. Working together on this is pretty cool. As you are looking this, I'm recording this early, but I'm going to be posting it on Monday. I hope that I will have returned to you your reviewed versions of your proposals. Hoping to get those back to you. And we set the timeline again now for how are we going to make our way through the special assignments. So this first one, it's on me right now to get that to you. Don't worry about it till I get it to you. And I will do that as soon as I can. I'm hoping to do it over the long weekend. So have a great week. See you online, and take care. Test.